What's up YouTube, Jeff back again, and today I got another exciting video for you guys. Today I am here to compare the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro and the Apple Watch Ultra. If you haven't seen my first video I made comparing the Apple Watch Series 8 to the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro, definitely check that out. This one is going to be the ultimate flagship comparison between these two companies. And yes, I'm gonna have to kind of keep tapping this a little bit because the maximum timeout is around 1 minute on both of these, so they can only stay on for a minute at a time, so occasionally I'll have to tap the screen. I talked about a lot of different things in that video, so I'm not going to really get into every little bit of this. I'm mainly going to talk about what is different between the Apple Watch Ultra and the Apple Watch Series 8 when compared to the Watch 5 Pro. Now before I get into that, for anybody who is following me, if you want to check out my mystery boxes, if you're going to pre-order a Galaxy S23 Ultra, I do have those up. You guys get a free case, free cleaning kit, free phone stand, a lot of cool stuff coming up for the S23 Ultra launch. Also check out my newsletter in the description. Subscribe, I do giveaways on there, other cool stuff coming up. I got a lot of plans for the newsletter coming up later this year. But let's talk about it. Apple Watch Ultra versus the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. Obviously, a couple of things very similar about these two watches. They're both incredibly chunky watches. So if you look at them right here, you can see just how thick they are from a side profile. And then from the front profile, you can actually kind of see just how big these are. In fact, if you put it on my wrist, I'll put it on again in a minute, but you can kind of see the profile when sitting on the wrist there. And then the Watch 5 Pro, just kind of the profile. Now, in terms of the profile on the wrist, they're actually pretty similar, even though the actual size of the watch face is 49 millimeters on the Apple Watch Ultra, and it's supposed to be 45 millimeters on the Galaxy Watch 5 Pro. But I mean, in terms of this large bezel that's around, see how big the bezel is there? Not as much bezel on the Apple Watch Ultra, so they really are very similar feeling on the wrist. I mean, since I wore the Watch 5 Pro for a while before I got the Ultra, I mean, I really don't notice a huge, problem wearing the Watch, Ultra. I feel like people talked about the 49 millimeter sizing, and it is very large for sure. So neither of these watches are for people who have small wrists. That's for certain. There's no doubt about that. Now, I'll also say that I'm not someone who's using all the crazy extreme fitness features of the Apple Watch Ultra. That's definitely not me, but there's going to be a lot of people who want to buy this watch just because of the fact that it's a bigger screen, a brighter screen, and great battery life. So those are the main things I want to talk about. So let's talk about a couple of my gripes with the Series 8 that also applies here. Apple has proprietary bands, which is super annoying. They made some that are specific for the Apple Watch Ultra. This is the Alpine Loop in Starlight. I'm not a huge fan of this band in terms of comfort. I think it's the best looking one, which is why I bought it. But to be honest with you, this little latch here sometimes bothers me when I have it on. I also can't seem to find a fit that I think is great. In terms of, I always find it to be a little too loose or a little too tight. I've started kind of counting down the number of loops here. 1, 2, I usually go between like 6 and 7, but I find that 6 is a little too tight and 7's a little too loose. I wish there were non-proprietary bands available for the Apple Watch. This connector makes it so that you can't just slap on any watch band onto this. It's got to be specifically made for the Apple Watch, and there are even fewer that are being made for the Ultra. Now, Nomad has some cool bands coming out that are going to be made for this, and I'll probably have some stuff on that on my Twitter because they have some really good looking ones. On the other hand, the Watch 5 Pro, you can put on pretty much any standard watch band because it's got the standard pins on the back, so you don't have to buy a watch band from Samsung, and I think that's a huge win. So I still think that's a pretty big fail on Apple's part. Obviously, it helps them make money because they sell a lot of first-party bands, but it's not great for consumers, and considering the limited number of options made specifically for the Watch Ultra at launch, I think it's kind of unfortunate. The next thing, let's talk about the two OSs, because I already talked about this a lot in the Watch Series Watch 8 versus the Watch 5 Pro. I still think watchOS is a much more polished operating system when it comes to apps and just general fluidity. Wear OS 3.0 is getting there. Samsung's obviously made some tweaks along with Google, but it's still not nearly as smooth in terms of just like general animation smoothness, the number of third-party apps that are optimized for the platform, just all the things that are thought about with it. Now, that being said, one thing I will say is that Samsung still makes things a lot more customizable. One of the big features on the Watch 5 Pro is that you've got this extra button, right? On Samsung, obviously, you've got an extra button down here as well. On the Watch 5 Ultra, on the Watch Ultra from Apple, you can't really customize this to do anything. You like turn on the flashlight, do some other outdoorsy stuff, which again, not everyone's buying this for that purpose, even though it's marketed that way. This orange button can't really be set to open any app at this point, at least not natively in the app, the Watch app on your iPhone. In fact, I can show you guys really quick. Let's see if we can go in here to the Watch app and I can show you what you can do with it. So if you go in here, here's the action button. Here's what you can do with it. Flashlight, workout, stopwatch, waypoint, backtrack, dive, shortcut, and none. Now, I think you could set this, but not everyone knows this. And I did play with this. The annoying thing about the shortcut app is that when you set the shortcut app just to open an app, and you can do this to actually add icons to your iPhone, I'm aware of this. It opens the shortcut app before it opens and launches the app, which is an unnecessary extra step. So you may be able to do it with that, but I don't know why there's not just an option like open, Spotify or whatever. That should be a default option. And you can do that kind of stuff with your Samsung Watch and with Wear OS. And so I certainly think the customization is still way ahead on an Android watch, which makes sense. I mean, that's what Android's always known for in terms of phones. So of course it makes sense that the watch would be there as well. But in terms of polish, fit, and finish, settings, the notifications, I still think watchOS has the lead there. Let's talk about battery life, because since they are two really thick watches, everybody's going to want to know which one of these has better battery life. I talked about the Watch 5 Pro battery life nonstop when I got it. It was amazing. They're pretty similar actually in daily use, but I'm still going to give the Watch 5 Pro a slight advantage. I was able to wear the Watch 5 Pro for almost 4 days without charging it. I've been able to get about 2.5 days, almost 3 full days out of the Ultra. That's pretty awesome. And Apple says they're going to optimize this for better battery life later this year. I assume in a watchOS software update. So that's going to make it even better. They claim up to 60 hours, but that'll probably be closer to like 3 full days, maybe 3.5 days for the average user, if you're not using it for extreme sports. Like I said, I'm not an extreme sports enthusiast. That's not why I bought this. I bought it because I want the big, bright display and all that stuff. Speaking of which, the display on this thing is phenomenal. That's another place where Apple greatly surpasses Samsung. Of course, you got to remember, this is a much more expensive watch, as I said. This comparison, just like my Series 8 comparison, is really a novelty comparison anyway, because if you have an Android phone or a Samsung device, you're going to buy this. And if you have an iPhone, you're buying this. You're not going to switch phones to get the watch. So it's kind of a moot point. But the display on this thing is crazy. Up to 2,000 nits of brightness, which is pretty much double what you can get on here. So that's really, really impressive at the end of the day. Samsung's known for brightness on their phones, but their watches still haven't really got there. That being said, I haven't really ever needed my watch to get a whole lot brighter than it does, but in direct sunlight here in Arizona, it is nice to have that extra brightness. You do get an extra degree of clarity, so I won't say that it's not, a meaningful feature for me. I do find it to be a pretty useful feature. A couple of other things that I'll say about this watch. Haptic feedback is amazing on the Ultra. It's even stronger than on the Series 8. It makes the Watch 5 Pro haptic feedback buzzing kind of annoying and feel cheap by comparison. Samsung could really improve there. That's one place I feel they really, really should improve, is the haptics in their watch. Apple does that great, and they did it even better with the Ultra. Another thing I really think Samsung could incorporate, which would be awesome, is this trick, night mode. That thing looks so really crazy. I think the night mode on this watch just looks absolutely sick. And it is one of those features that even though I don't need it because I'm not an outdoor enthusiast, I used it like crazy. It was absolutely fun to play with. I really, really did enjoy that. Now, speaking of the haptics, you can also get the Apple Watch Ultra to tell you the time using haptic feedback, which is crazy, by just holding down on the watch face with 2 fingers. It'll actually vibrate the time to you. Oh, I did it right there. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to tell because it's vibrating on my finger, but it vibrates the time in a certain pattern that lets you know the number of hours, number of minutes, etc. I thought that was super cool as well, which obviously would be useful if you're hiking. The action button, like I said, kind of limited right now. I think they can make it more explicit and just make it any shortcut. Again, I'll play with the Shortcuts app. I'm sure you could probably do that, but I always find the Shortcuts app on iOS annoying. Why not just give us extra customization in there? Everything else I really do like about this watch. The siren that's in the watch, I never use it for outdoor stuff, but I use it to scare my wife at night one night in our bedroom, and it was pretty effective for that. I'm just telling you kind of the everyday uses for this. Obviously, if you're talking about extreme sports, the Apple Watch Ultra has the advantage, but when it comes to basic stuff like heart rate monitoring, blood oxygen, some of the basic health functionality, the Samsung Watch is, right there, even ahead in some functionality, some things that Apple hasn't integrated. We still don't have the blood pressure monitoring in the US, but it is in other places with Samsung, which is something that I think Apple is going to eventually bring and would be a great feature to have on the Apple Watch as well. At the end of the day, I think the haptics, the display, the night mode, those are the really cool things about this watch that I love, that I think, if Samsung could get a brighter display, better haptics and night mode, those are features I'd love to see come to their future Pro watches. There's a huge price difference, like I said, $300, $350 is a lot of money. So, it's almost double the price. But the Apple Watch Ultra definitely does live up to its name. And again, it's a kind of a moot point at the end of the day. If I had to choose which one, I'm still choosing the Samsung Watch because I don't want to be forced to use an iPhone as my daily driver. So the Watch 5 Pro is probably going to be on my wrist the majority of the time. But I'll still keep this for comparison videos, things like that, and occasionally wear it when I'm forced to fraternize with my iPhone friends. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Those are my thoughts on the Apple Watch Ultra. Pick the one that goes with your phone again. That's the important thing. If you guys did enjoy the video, like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification icon for future videos like this. Definitely check out the mystery boxes for the S23 Ultra if you're purchasing one. 100% free. Cool stuff for you guys that are ordering the phone. And check out my newsletter. I appreciate you guys checking it out, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching.